So welcome, you guys. We have an exciting topic for all of you. The one that you guys chose, and it's work-life balance. This is our first series of the three-part webinar for work-life balance. So my name is Kimberly Broussard.
I'm Nathan Barnabas.
And we have a special guest for you guys.
Oh, hi, I'm Christy. You might remember me from way back when. Yeah, hi.
We're so excited for Christy to join us, and she's going to share some of her expertise in regards to work life. We're going to talk, just scratch the surface on work life. We're going to talk about work-life balance, and we want to hear from you guys. And this is how you're going to share. You guys have already started with all of the comments you're putting now in chat. So at the bottom of your screen, make sure it's in the two-part, it's all panelists and attendees, because we want to hear from you, okay? So this is what we're going to talk about for this workshop. Like I said, we're going to scratch the surface in regards to work-life balance. So we're going to start off with, okay, what is work-life balance? What does it even mean? We're going to talk about, all right, why is it important? And what are the benefits of work-life balance? Why is it important for you to have a balanced life? So Tara, I forgot. She is our lovely assistant, our producer, really, in the background. You see her lovely sign. So she's going to share all of the comments that you guys are throwing in chat for us, okay? So when I think about work-life balance, I'm pretty sure when I said the word, you started to think about, all right, your own definition, what work-life balance means to you. You know, when we think about work-life balance, I'm pretty sure there's so many things that pop up in our heads. And I wonder if it's different. I wonder if everybody has a different definition when it comes to work-life balance. So Nathan, I think you have a question for us.
Yeah, I want to know as well, what is work-life balance for y'all? Because I know for me, work-life balance is just being able to do the things that I love. So finding that balance between getting my job done, getting my tasks done, and also when it's time for me to get off of work, being able to actually leave. And even though I'm working from home, shut the laptop down and go outside or something. I just like that freedom of being able to travel and do all the things that I love. The productivity is still there, but I can still enjoy life, spend time with family and things of that nature. What about you, Kim?
I think when I think of work-life balance, it's basically that I am able to do both, just like you said, in regards to doing my work and you know, being able to provide for my family, and also having that time to spend with my family, to make memories, and you know, to be there for the important things in life for my family. What about you, Christy?
Man, it's interesting. It's changed over time, because for me, it used to just be, I'd call them seasons of imbalance. I would have times when I would totally be focused on career, and then other times that I'd be focused on family. And so during those times, I'd be totally balanced that way. Now it's very different for me, because in this time, I'm really thinking of, I want to be able to have that division between work. I want to know that here's the time I leave work, and I can leave it back behind, even if it's in the same house with me, that I can leave it and totally focus on the moments of my life with my family and all. So
when I was doing some research for this particular webinar, it stated that, you know, when people think of work-life balance, they think of having, you know, equal hours spent for work and equal hours spent for life. And they said, you know, that that's unrealistic. It's about being able to enjoy both parts, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an equal amount of time. And so, you know, when I think about all of our definitions, some of them, you know, some parts are the same. And do you think that, you know, our generations play a part in our different definitions of work-life balance?
I would say so, because I'm a millennial, so some of my friends they don't really starting out, like graduating college and things, like they don't really take that time for themselves. Whereas some of my other friends, they're like, you know what, I'm gonna take that day off. I'm gonna take care of myself. So I think it does depend on generations, just our upbringing, and it's something that we learn over time, if that makes sense. What do you think?
It does make sense. It does make sense to me. And, you know, when I think of my generation and as a Gen X, you know, I don't know if I can speak for my entire generation. I just know in regards to of me that I think we have a little bit of both, where we sometimes hoard our time off and try to let it accumulate, but we also, you know, take an occasional vacation every now and then. What about you, Christy?
Oh, you don't want to hear it because I'm a boomer. Realize that my generation is a generation that coined the phrase workaholic, and we thought it was a good thing. So we were way off in the whole concept of work-life balance, and we're only getting around to it now because we've become a caregiver generation, and we've had to have the balance because we got to take care of the aging generation that our parents is. And so, yeah, I think it's very different. I think that's a discussion we need to be having more often. What different generations think about work-life balance, what they think it is.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys think that is different amongst the generations, or it's different because of what we were taught? You think?
Good question. Maybe a little of both, because I know I was raised by my older parents, and they were traditionalists, and I have a lot of their work ethic. So yeah, I do see a difference there, you know, but then I still have the boomer sensibilities. What about Nathan?
I agree, because my parents, especially like my dad, he was one of those people who worked off, you know, barely take off unless you're extremely sick. And I kind of got my work ethic from him. And I feel like had he done something differently, I probably wouldn't be where I am today, like with my work ethic and how I complete my task and that work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I think I agree with you, Nathan, because my dad and my mom, you know, would go to work sick, would go to work, put in and push through. And, you know, I remember, you know, having my first job, and I remember not feeling well, and I called in. My dad was like, "What do you mean you called in?" I was like, "But I'm coughing and I don't feel well." And, you know, he felt my forehead and he was like, "You don't have a fever? You all right? You could have been going to work. You could have been getting paid." So I guess that's why I have that mentality, is that, you know, if you know you're not, you don't have a fever, you know, you could push through. But there is a downside to that, you know, pushing your body to the limit and not listening to it. When you do that, you know, I found that it takes you a lot longer to recover from your sickness because you're not listening to your body. So what might have been, you know, a 24-hour or 48-hour bug tends to last a little bit longer because you're not actually listening to your body.
Yeah.
Amen.
We've got some good comments in the chat here. A lot of people agree, says it's different for generation. Gretchen pointed out she thinks it's different for genders too. And Kathy said some generations tend to lean more towards life on that scale, and it's difficult when you supervise multiple generations.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have different viewpoints.
Gotta have those discussions, don't you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that gender thing, I never thought of it like that, but that made sense, because my dad, I noticed that my dad's work ethic is like a lot like more than my mom's, and I tend to draw to him. We're closer, so like say that. I want to go to my mom and see like how she feels. I want to study it.
Yeah. These are questions I really do want to take to people and ask and say, what do you think?
Mary pointed out, she said, I'm a geriatric millennial. I don't know how I feel about that term. She said, with workaholic tendencies, for her, like work-life balance is all about trying to convince herself that her interests are as deserving of time and effort as work is. Working 6 hours past quitting time is easy, but making herself take a break or schedule a vacation is extremely difficult.
Bam. That's exactly why we're doing this, isn't it?
I understand.
I love the term geriatric millennial, and I hadn't heard that
Mary
term.
rocks.
I hadn't heard that term until recently. I think it's 1980 to 84, I think is what a geriatric millennial is considered. That's interesting. Something else that's really interesting too is have you guys ever had a supervisor? I've had a supervisor who's like, if you're not bleeding from the eyes or the ears, then you could come to work, or wanted me to be on call to, 24 hours a day, wanted me to pick up my phone and be on call just in case, they need me.
Yeah, Kim, I had a supervisor like that, and we talking about generations and things like that. I want to know, why is it important for you and your boss to have the same expectations on having work-life balance? I'll go first. I had a previous job where I was an assistant manager, and my boss, she would take off all the time, and she didn't really care about like the other employees. And what it caused was just like, if I wanted to take off, it was like, shame on you, you're messing up the business, or things like that. And what it did to me was it made me not want to take off. Like I still sometimes feel guilty for taking that time off because, she believed in having perfect work-life balance, but I couldn't have it. So now I got to try to shift my whole perspective over the things that I learned coming out of college.
That's definitely interesting. And I don't know if that's where my mentality about work-life balance is, or the fact that I don't know how to shut it off.
Mm-hmm.
If that's where it came from, because I wasn't on the same page with my supervisor. And I think it's important for you to be on the same page with your supervisor, because if you don't have that proper work-life balance, it definitely can affect your work. I've been at a job where as soon as you drive up, you could feel the tension in your neck as soon as you get into the parking lot. And I vowed that I would never get like that again, that I would never, hate my job that much and stay at a job where I wasn't happy, because it starts to trickle into your productivity when you're unhappy and you're stressed. So Christy, what about you?
You really do. You have to have these discussions with your supervisor, because it is important for y'all to have the same sort of feelings, or at least understand each other's feelings about work-life balance. I think it's so important because, you can be an employee who thinks you're doing really great. Oh, I'm doing a wonderful job, but you're taking off so regularly that your boss is thinking, wow, they don't care about this job. And you do, but that's your idea of work-life balance. You need to have that discussion so there's not animosity building up that you don't know about.
Yeah. So
Sorry, go ahead, Nathan.
So after y'all have that conversation with your boss, what happens if later down the line the expectations don't align? Like, what does that mean to y'all? Like, what would you do?
I hate to say this. If I'm having that conversation and with my boss and we don't have the same expectations in regards to work-life balance, then it's time for me to start looking for something else where another company that does align. Because again, like I said, I've been in a job where I don't like it, and I can feel the tension in my neck, and it was miserable for me. It's a place I never want to go back to. And so life is short. And that's my Lafayette accent coming out. I can't say short, I always say short. So life is really short. So it's important for you to do what you love and be happy. I'm very blessed where I love what I do right now and I have fun doing it. So it doesn't feel like work to me. And I think everybody should have that.
Yeah. I agree.
What about you, Christy? What would you do if you're
Well, my mind is kind of in this zone because I'm writing the conflict class right now. So I automatically go to compromise, and I think, let's have this discussion and see if we can give a little bit on each side. Maybe I, check before I automatically take off, or maybe they don't automatically say, oh, wait, we need you, you can't take off. So maybe there's some discussion there and some compromise, but ultimately, if you can't make it align, no, it's not going to work out for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the commenters agree. Said, yeah, I'd look for another job. Although they say, Keegan and Gretchen right now say they have the world's best supervisor that agrees we all need to have a work-life balance. So lucky for you
And
guys.
Yeah.
there you go.
Us too.
Half the state just changed departments. Y'all are going to get some resumes in there, I'm sure. Okay.
Alice actually, right before we started talking about this, she put in that she has had supervisors that drill you why you want or need to take vacation days. They want to know the reasons. And that sounds not
That's not fun.
not fair to me. But
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Gretchen
Yeah.
said she had a supervisor once that used to act like she was taking her leave.
Yeah, you're taking it away from them.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
And I can relate to that because I had the exact same experience. I like to take I like to take cruise vacations. And I remember my boss, she said, you can't be taking those 7-day cruises. And that's when I left because you're not going to take away my cruising. And what I
You
realized
got
was like,
priorities.
I need to go.
You got your
I wanna point-
priorities, and you know.
I want to point out something Alice said because I think it goes towards the generational ideals. She said it was instilled in her not to job hop and how commitment is important and that you have to plan for retirement. So leaving isn't always an option. And see, I'm borderline, I'm a cusp. So I myself, I'm end of millennial, beginning of Gen Z. And I'll tell you, Gen Z is like, they're ready to hop between jobs like it's nothing because they want, that company or that job that's going to align with what they're looking for. So that's so funny. Like, I'm just thinking about the different generations with that comment.
Yeah, 'cause I remember the days when people would say, "Oh, you've only worked 2 years at each of these places. Oh, no, we can't take you on if you're only going to be here a short time."
Something else that Nathan mentioned, and when we were talking about this and researching this topic, he said, that's why it's important for you to ask that question about work-life balance in the interview.
Yeah.
Mm.
It'll help you find out, like, because you need to know that thing, that you need to know that answer to that. Because if you like to take off and have your me days, you might want to know that is something that you need to know the answer to.
What a great idea.
Yeah, when he said it, mind blown. I was like, that's a good idea. That way you won't, it's going to be too late by the time you start with that company to see if their values align with yours.
Mm-hmm.
And we look at asking for time off and discussing time off as a taboo topic. But I think it's time for us to like shift that conversation and actually have those conversations because that's the only way we'll fully know.
What a great idea. I needed you around in my job interviews.
I know.
I was just like, will you take me?
I know. And so, now that we talked a little bit about, okay, we know our own definition. We know that, we need to have that conversation with our supervisor and see if their definition aligns with ours. Now it's time for us to identify, all right, why is work-life balance important? So Nathan, can you tell me why is work-life balance important to you?
So for me, it's because I like to travel. I like to have fun, work hard, play hard. So if I'm working hard and being productive and getting the job done, I want to take the time to decompress, de-stress, do something that I like to do and just have some me time. Because I notice if I'm not balanced, I know I'm not productive. And that's how I could tell I'm not as productive. I'm kind of like tense all the time. So I need that time to just recharge and do the things that I love. What about you, Christy?
I'll tell you, it's important to me because I've experienced the total burnout of not having it before.
Yeah.
When I worked at a position in Atlanta, I worked lots of extra hours. I worked all the weekends. I didn't want my people to ever work harder than I did, so I worked a lot. And by the time I started, like you were saying, listening to my body, it was a little too late. I had gotten to the point where all of a sudden I could not hold down food. I was having migraines where I couldn't even focus. I couldn't keep my eyes open. I ended up in an emergency room on an IV, and at the end of that stay in the hospital, I realized that felt like my best vacation in years. That's when I realized I had a problem and I needed work-life balance. And since then, I've always carried a rubber chicken to remind me to stay balanced and not take myself too seriously.
Mm,
I like that.
I like that. I find that work-life balance is important to me because I am all about making memories. I have a little one. I mean, he's not really little, he's 13, but in my mind, he's little. And so I'm all about, it's important to me because I only have a little while left with him before he goes off to college. So I want to make as many memories as possible. So when he has a game or when he has a function at school, I want him to be able to look in the stands and see mom right there cheering him on. So it's about making memories. So that's why work-life balance is important to me. Tara, what do you have in chat?
Keegan says, if you don't have a balance, it can shift your mental and physical health for the worse. And Kathy says for her sanity, and it makes her a better employee.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with that. I mean, Christy, you and I were just talking about that last night, where we talked about how we're focusing on our physical health and making sure that, we're good, we go to the doctor, but how often do we check on our mental health? Because our mental health and our physical health both work hand in hand. And so if you're not healthy mentally, it can manifest itself in physical and through, your physical health. And so, it's always important that, something that I found yesterday, which tickled me, is, making sure that you do a checkup from the neck up. And that's making sure that you take care of yourself mentally. And you can do that, just like Kathy said, it's for your sanity. It does make you a better person.
Yeah, so it does. I know, especially for me, if I'm not balanced, I'm grouchy. I'm not the person that y'all think I am when I'm. when
I don't want to see. Balance. Oh, I don't want to see grouchy Nathan. No.
Mm-hmm. If I'm overwhelmed or stressed, I'm just like you, Nathan. I'm a totally different person. I am going to go in my cube and I'm going to be extremely, extremely quiet. And the quietness is for myself and to get myself grounded and sort through my emotions. So that's why I don't speak. But now that, we talked a little bit about, okay, why is work-life balance important? We talked about why it's important to each one of us. Why is it important for your supervisor to encourage work-life balance? Nathan?
I would say it kind of goes hand in hand, because if you're not your best, if you don't have that balance, then they'll see it in your work. Productivity is a big thing. So if you're not balanced, that's going to go out the window. And also the morale, you're gonna start that chain reaction that we always talk about, that if you're not happy with something, then you're probably going to start to drag your environment down, your team and the people around you.
I agree, Nathan. I think that, for your employer to encourage that work-life balance, it helps with that positive work environment. Mm-hmm. And it sets that culture. I'm all about positive work culture. I'm a big advocate for it. And so I think that it definitely, especially that's where we're going. People are more focused on work-life balance. And so if you want to attract people, you have that, not have to, but it's important for you to encourage a proper work-life balance. What about you, Christy?
Oh, it's so important. And I'm totally with you. You're setting the culture. You're setting the example. You're the model. I want to be in their position, so I have to do what they do. So, you are setting the example. If you say that it's normal to work late every night, they're going to think, well, that's what I have to do to be in that position. And so what you do represents to your employees, what you expect. Mm-hmm. It's not fair to set that unrealistic expectation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tara, what do you have for us in chat?
Let's see. Katanya says the supervisor should want you to be the best you could be. And Sandra says happier employees equals more productive employees, and it is a win-win.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Sorry,
Go
Kim.
ahead, Nathan.
You can go first. I'll go after.
Katanya made, as soon as you read her comment, that theme song for the Army popped in my head. Be all that you can be.
Yeah.
Like that, it's true. Christy.
Kim singing. I'm going to write a note on here. Never mind.
So that just begs ask the question, what are some things that they can do to encourage work-life balance? And I'll go first. I have one of the best supervisors in the world, because if she notices my fatigue before I do, so she'll pull me off the side and say, hey, Nathan, this isn't what I expect. Take a break. Or like, and I love it because she encourages those boundaries. She encourages that time for me to just sit back and take a break and just reflect on things. And I feel like that it could be something as simple as taking a break. You don't need, if you don't have time to take off, we all have busy seasons. So if it's just taking a 30-minute break or just to work on something light, maybe for a few days, that can definitely help with that balance.
I love that. I think it goes back to what Christy said in regards to leading by example.
Yeah.
If you're what they call a workaholic and you're burning the midnight oil every night, then your employee is going to think, hey, that's what she expects from me. So it's important for you to model the behavior that you're looking for out of your employees. So leading by example. What about you, Christy?
Yeah, that's very much along the lines of, don't send those emails after hours. That's just, it's a simple, small thing, but it's like, as soon as you send one after hours, we go, oh, wait, you're working after hours, so I should be too. Let me answer it. And then you get into that cycle of proving that you're still thinking about work, which we're trying not to do, because that's how we recover for the next day of work.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it's about setting those boundaries. Like, I love what you said, Christy. It could be as simple as, okay, you get off at 3:30. They don't contact you after that. Or if you're out for vacation, let you have that time. The place won't burn down. Just let your employee escape and not bother them 24/7.
And I think Nathan brings a good point, because that's where that knowledge sharing comes in, that everybody knows what everybody does. That way, when that one employee is not gone, you're not scrambling, calling them, asking them 50 million questions while they're on vacation, because no one knows what to do. That's where that knowledge sharing comes in. And something else that Nathan, brought up in regards to his supervisor is, with my mentality and where I came from, I push through when I'm sick. And I remember, coming back from the doctor, I had bronchitis and I sounded awful. But I was like, you know what, I'm going to push through. I had a class in 2 hours. I was like, you know what, I'm going to push through and then I'm going to take off. And I remember calling my supervisor and saying, hey, basically I said, hey, I'm not feeling well, but I'm going to push through. And she's like, no, ma'am, you're not, we're going to cancel your class and you're going to go and take off and take care of yourself. Because if you're not healthy, then it doesn't do anybody any good. And that stuck with me. And that impressed me so much, is that she didn't choose everything else over my health. She cared about me enough to say, no, your body is important. Your health is important. You go and take that time off and rest. We'll reschedule that class. And that's why she's one of my top supervisors. So, Tara, what do you have for us in chat?
Yeah, so Alice just said being consistent with employees, and I agree with that. Mary said her supervisor is pretty good about making a phone call or calling a meeting when she notices that they're a little off, and encourages them to step away, breathe, take a mental health day, vacation, whatever they need.
Kudos to your supervisor, Mary.
Yeah.
The fact that she even calls it take a mental health day, I love that. That's a keeper, Mary. She's a keeper. So I love that. You do need to take some mental health days. Taking that time away helps you come back refreshed. And Christy, I'm looking at you, taking mental health days. Christy has 6,000 hours of vacation time.
I'm working on it.
Baby steps.
Yeah, that's exactly. Mhm.
Okay, so now that we know, okay, we know the importance of work-life balance. Now it's time for us to tackle those benefits. And we've said a couple of those benefits throughout this webinar thus far. And so I just want to ask Nathan. Nathan, can you tell me some of the benefits of a balanced work life?
For me, it's less stress, more time, like I'll, and also an improved mood, because whenever I feel that balance, I am much happier, and people can tell I'm much happier. Like I don't feel so stressed about getting something done, or I just feel like myself.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Chris?
Oh man. I'm with Kathy where she said my sanity. That's the thing that the balanced work life does for me, my sanity and my health. To me, it's about not missing out on life because, like they say, this is not a dress rehearsal. Every moment, this moment is all there is.
Yeah.
And I want the best version of me at that moment. And the best version of me is one who is stable, rested, a positive attitude. And I only get that by being balanced, and I'm working on it.
And I agree. So when to me, the benefits of a balanced life is happiness. It's having that sense of happiness. And again, I can't stress enough loving what you do. Like once you've had a job where you love what you do and it doesn't feel like work, like you almost feel guilty because you're like, oh man, not everybody has this. And so it is important to, have that balance and love what you do. So I know that we came up with a couple of benefits ourselves. And one of the benefits that Nathan pointed out was less stress. And it's definitely, one of those benefits. So what are some choices that we can do to start reducing stress now? Nathan?
A simple one that I do now, whenever I start to feel overwhelmed with work, I take a walk. I take a break and a walk. So it could be like 15, 20 minutes just to walk outside and just feel in a different place, because I work from home, so I can't go in another room. I still feel like I'm at work. But when I go outside, I see nature and I see different things. It kind of takes my mind off of what I'm working on. And whenever I'm done with that walk, I notice that I can attack the problem or attack whatever I'm working on from a different perspective. It usually helps me.
I love that. What about you, Christy?
Oh, there's going to be humor involved. I say, find a laugh partner. Both of you keep lists of jokes. And anytime one of you is down, you call the other one and they read one of the bad jokes off their list. And it's just a great way when you're having a really bad day. Help. I need a dose. And man, I need a fix of humor. And that can make a big difference.
Christy has a funny one, and I guess it's not really funny. I don't know what it is, but I like to dance. And so one of my favorite songs that get me, no matter what kind of mood I'm in, it gets me in a great mood, is Whitney Houston, Dance with Somebody. So I put that song on if I'm stressed, and I will boogie like it's 1980. And
boy,
it kind of helps me get in a different mood. And so if I am stressed to the max, that's when I start to get quiet and I just have quiet time and I start to reassess things. Tara, what do you have?
Christy said, just if it's allowed, take your work email account off of your phone.
What a great idea.
Christy, that's a great idea.
Bam, drop the mic.
I find that because it's on my phone, I'm constantly looking at it even after hours. I'm just reading them. I'm not replying, but I look at it. And so that's a great idea.
Alice spoke for Mary and said Mary has a pun of the day. I asked if she would share that with us, but I haven't gotten a response yet. Nikki says she has a different work cell phone, so that's nice. Be able to put one away.
That's very smart.
Mhm.
I like this pun of the day idea.
I like that. So,
Mhm.
okay, so Mary has to now be my joke partner that I share stuff with.
Mhm.
Ooh, and Katanya said just to make sure she gets the proper amount of sleep, because being well rested helps her process everything much better.
Ooh, yeah.
Mm.
I can tell a difference in my alertness if I don't get a good night's sleep.
Mhm.
I'm laughing because Mary put her pun in the chat. She said, "What did the cop say to the criminal wristwatch? You're under arrest."
That is
That's
funny.
awesome. I love it.
Okay.
I love
Okay,
it,
yeah.
Mary.
Mary is now my joke partner. Look out, Mary. I
Right.
shall be calling.
You need to take that. You need to take your show on the road.
Mhm.
Definitely. All right. So what one of our other stressors, things that you can do, or the benefits of work-life balance, is your mental and physical health, which we talked about earlier.
Mm.
So Nathan, what do you have for us?
So for mental health, I am big on like being mindful and listening to myself. So I journal a lot. Whenever I'm a little stressed, I start to I journal. And I mentioned this to y'all last night. I write whenever I'm super overwhelmed, I'll write a letter to myself, my future self, and I'll read it. And I notice whenever I read it and see that I went through the situation, I'm like, I'm so dramatic because this wasn't even serious. But it helps to get those feelings out, and also just taking time to meditate. I can meditate for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just focusing on my breathing, put on my favorite song, a calming song, and just like close my eyes and breathe in and out. And that definitely helps because it kind of, to me, I feel like it eliminates that brain fog that I have.
Yeah. What about you, Christy? What are some small steps you can make to start taking control of your mental health?
You know, something I do that I've probably mentioned to y'all before, but is I like to every so often switch. You know how you have your task list, your to-do list that you have every day? Some days I will switch it over to my done list. And instead of having all that bunch of stuff on there, yeah, I got that one thing that I know I need to work on today. But instead, what I do is every time I do something, no matter how small, I write it on the list.
Mhm.
Because there are those days when I feel like I haven't accomplished anything. And if I can look at that and go, oh my gosh, these repetitive tasks, that's a lot of work, you know, and start looking at that list, it's a sense of accomplishment. And it really does help me take back control and realize, hey, even those days I don't think I'm doing anything, I'm getting a lot done.
Mhm. I love that. Something that I started doing recently, and that was just from recommendations from Christy, is journaling. And so I've been taking a page a day and journaling about, well, I have one that asks me questions. So I'm able to write down and answer whatever questions they're asking me for that particular day. So, and I find that it does wonders. It really does. What about you, Tara? What do you have in chat for us?
Alice says, take your breaks and lunch and walk away from the computer.
That's a big
Mhm.
one.
No eating lunch in
Yes.
front of the computer. And I will tell you, I have a bad habit of doing that.
Mhm.
Alice is so right. Good for
Mary
Kathy.
said,
She did it.
"Cough." She said, Alice better take her own advice.
I love that. Oh,
Oh, Mary, that's
chat is
awesome.
hot today, folks.
Right. That is awesome. Yeah. Sometimes it does. I have to set an alarm for me to step away. I have to set a break for myself because sometimes I can get lost, and especially if I'm in a flow, I have a project that I need to complete, I will stay until I get to wherever the spot I need. And sometimes it's great to just take a step back because you come with a fresh pair of eyes and a clear mind.
Yeah.
So I love that advice.
I can relate to that, Kim, because sometimes I'll be working on something and it'll take me hours. I could be on the same part of the project. And then once I take my break and come back, I'm done. It's like I know exactly what to do, where to put things. And it's something so simple, but I never think of it until the very end.
Mhm. One of my other favorite benefits is definitely happiness. You guys heard me say it. And when I think of happiness, I think about, memories or places or things that make you happy. So Nathan, what are things, memories, or places that make you happy?
Um, I like, well, it depends because like in the, the whole pandemic thing, I found myself drawn to TikTok, and it kind of curated basically the algorithm started sending me people who are like mental health experts and people who give you practices. And I find myself spending a lot of time watching those videos, and that definitely does help me. And post pandemic, I just like to go to go somewhere where like the park and ride my bike, or just there's a neighborhood park in Zachary where I live, and I'll just walk there and I'll feel happy. It's like my little escape.
What about you, Christy?
I like childish things. I like coloring. I like pillow forts. Right now, my guest bedroom has a tent in it. So and there's no children in this house. So that's my kind of stuff.
I love it. I'm like Tara in regards to my travel memories. I really love anything having to deal with my family. I have a pretty neat family, and like Keegan said, yep, my kids as well. Our next one is it improves relationships. And so my question to you guys is, how can we start making connections and building those relationships? What are some things right now that we can start doing to making connections and building relationships?
It could be something as simple as checking in with people.
Mm.
Hey, how are you? I haven't heard from you in a while. What's going on? How have you been? Just the smallest things, because first of all, you're checking in with somebody, you're making that connection. And I'm sure, because when it happens to me, it's like, oh, wow, they really care. Like they're checking in, and it starts to build that relationship, and it builds that foundation of trust.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Christy?
I'd say for me, a huge thing has been, as laugh you want, Facebook, finding groups of people that are interested in the same things I am. So I look at the groups on Facebook and I find ones that are like me, and I join those, and I start making friends like that. It's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So one thing that we learned about work-life balance, and I don't know if I've said it before, is that you only live once.
Yeah.
So what is one goal that you would like to fulfill in your lifetime? Christy?
I just want to make a positive difference in the life of people. That's my big thing. And to do that, I have to be at my best physically and emotionally. And that's why work-life balance is so important for me to continue working on.
I love that. What about you, Nathan?
Christy had a good one. I'm gonna build on that. I wanna touch people. I want to have a lasting relationship. I want people to feel that I brought something of value to their life.
I like that.
Yes.
I mean, you guys are really awesome. And here I go. I'm like, oh, I want to go to Italy. So I guess my goal.
Hey, you'll make a difference in Italians' lives, okay?
Yeah. Right. I love what you guys said. I do make sure and try and be the best version of myself and a kind person every time I step out of my house. So which means that I'm not kind when I'm inside my house, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I do, I do want to be a kind person, and I do want to travel. Mm-hmm. Tara, do you have anything?
Yeah, Kathy's with you, Kim. She said she wants to visit all 50 states.
I'm with Kathy.
Cool.
And Mary actually just put one for improving relationships. One thing she and her boyfriend started doing during the pandemic was having video chat dates with friends out of state. So they play board games, but other times they just talk, have dramatic unboxings of their latest packages from Amazon, which I can relate to that one. There is always an Amazon box outside my door.
That's fun. I love that.
That's awesome. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I was just going to point out that Keegan mentioned that too, just checking in with his work. They have a work group, #KBAM. Not sure what that means, but they said not checking in and not talking about work.
Oh, yeah. That's the way to go, especially when not talking about work, that's shutting it off. So any closing thoughts, you guys?
So I just want to say that we know ourselves, we know how we feel. Me being mindful, I know when I'm at my best and when I'm at my worst. And I just want to say that it's okay to not be okay, but you have to take the steps to fix yourself and take time off or do what you need to do to find that perfect work-life balance.
Well said, Nathan.
Mhm.
Any closing thoughts for you, Christy?
Just baby steps. Take small steps and work towards, and don't beat yourself up when you fall out of balance again. Just keep on going.
Yeah.
And I think it's, listening to yourself and your body. You know when you're off, when something's not right, and identify, being alert and identifying when you're not feeling okay. That's the key. So you guys had some great closing thoughts, and I want to ask our audience a couple of questions. So I want us to do a little self-assessment. So I have 3 questions for you guys. And so I want you to answer truthfully, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll. And if you wouldn't mind, there we go. Wouldn't mind answering these questions for me.
I see Mary put gulp in
I
the,
know.
in the chat.
It's completely anonymous, Mary.
Yeah, we won't know.
Yeah, we won't know. It's completely anonymous. It's going to end in about 10 seconds.
Christy, are you checking this chat?
Yes, I will answer that in chat.
Okay.
All right, you guys. All right. So if you answered yes to any of these questions, then that means you might be at risk for burnout. Okay. And don't worry, we have you covered. So our next session is going to talk about how to identify the signs of an improper work-life balance and what are the dangers of that of an improper work-life balance. So if you guys wouldn't mind scheduling and joining us on June 17th, that's when we're going to talk about these signs. And on July 15th, we're going to talk about, all right, how do you create a proper work-life balance? So we hope to see you guys there. So if you want to see any of our past webinars or even the one that we're doing today, don't worry, we have you covered. Here, you'll get a handout, including all of the information that we've talked about today. You're going to find that handout on our talent development page under our Success Series webinar. So you're going to click on it and it's going to bring up all the webinars that we've done. If you want to view either this one or any of our past webinars, you also can find us on YouTube just by searching Louisiana State Civil Service. And also, if you don't have access to YouTube, we're everywhere. You're going to find us in Leo by searching webinar. Okay. So we really appreciate you joining us this afternoon. Thank you for joining us. And don't forget to keep on learning. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. I really appreciate it. Bye.
Yeah.